Okay. So coming back to so first thing, once the ledger is completed, you can start entering a transaction. But in order to start entering a transaction, you need a responsibility. Okay. You need to first create a responsibility, and for that particular responsibility, you need to assign this particular ledger. Otherwise, so now in the system, you got different responsibilities. If I go to General Ledger Vision Operations, from the naming it's a convention, you can see that when you try to enter a journals, it goes into Vision Operations ledger. But now we want the transactions to go into Reliance INR ledger. So in order to do that, what you need to do is you need to create a new responsibility, and for that particular responsibility, you need to assign some kind of a profile option. That is like kind of a associating of the responsibility to your ledger. Then only system understand that all the transactions whatever you are entering using that particular responsibility will get into that particular ledger. Okay. We have done with all these things. We will not be doing a second ledger for the time being. So Niranjan, just to answer your question, there is a BR also for the second ledger. So first I'll try to explain the entire primary ledger, and then you can better appreciate what is second ledger and why do you go for second ledger. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll create a one responsibility by name General Ledger Super User Reliance INR using the system administrator responsibility. So all the responsibilities are created using a system administration responsibility. So generally in any live environment or like in any client environment, you will not have an access to the system administrator responsibility in a production and what do you call in a production instance. Only a DBS will have an access to the system administrator responsibility. So in our current process, what we do is like in our current client, we have an access to the system administrator responsibility in a testing environment. If there is any requirement to create any new responsibility, we create the responsibility in a testing environment, that is your development environment, and we have got some kind of a tools which will migrate that. We take an appropriate approach, and we have some kind of a external tools which will help us in migrating that responsibility setup from one environment to another environment. Okay, and there are a lot of ways for that, like we use something called Quintana tool, and technically I think Niranjan and Pradeep would already know you can generate an LDT. Okay, and you can download an LDT from one environment and upload the LDT to the other environments. Security, responsibility, define, that's the navigation. And if you do not know the navigation, you can just say Control L, responsibility. Okay, that will bring you to this responsibility screen. And what is the responsibility name? So this is the naming convention, General Ledger Super User. So the naming convention is generally the module name, which is General Ledger, and then the role. So generally you in any kind of a live environment, you have super user responsibility, data entry responsibility, manager responsibility, supervisor responsibility. So different responsibilities. So the significance of different responsibility will have different accesses. Using super user responsibility, you will have everything. You will be doing it. You will be able to do a data entry. You will be able to approve journals. You will be able to do a configuration of the setups, everything. But using a data entry responsibility, you will be able to only do a data entry. You will not have an access to the configuration part. Similarly, for the manager, you may have different responsibilities, and in some cases, you may have even the inquiry responsibilities. And using an inquiry responsibility, all the menus will be only in inquiry mode, read-only mode. So you will not be able to make any changes. Only you can query the data. You can just run some reports and query the data, but you will not have any access to create any transactions or any configurations. So, so depending on the role of a person, the corresponding responsibility will be given to that particular person. So if he's a normal clerk, he'll be provided a data entry responsibility, and if he's as a director or senior director, he'll be provided with a supervisor responsibility, and if he's a manager, then maybe he'll be provided with a general supervisor responsibility, something like that. Okay, so this is the responsibility name. And what is the application? When I say application, it is module, whether it's a general ledger module or or accounts payable or accounts receivable. So the responsibility name is only just a naming convention, but how does system understand it's really this particular responsibility is a general ledger? So you need to associate the responsibility, application name, general ledger. And responsibility key is the internal key or code for that particular responsibility. So just use some naming convention. So I'm using a naming convention of module underscore my company underscore currency. Again, you can even put ABC also there, but just a proper naming convention. Okay. And there is some data group. I mean, I really don't know like whether we can customize or not. Like in all my projects, whatever I've seen is using a data group of just a standard. Application general and menu. Okay, so this is very important. So this is the driving factor for the responsibility. I need to use an appropriate menu so that the user who has an access to this particular responsibility will get an access to all those menus or the functions whatever is mentioned here. So there are a lot of seeded Oracle menus which are available. If you want, you can use those seeded menus, and if you want to create your own menus, you can do that. You can customize your menus. Okay, and request group is basically a set of programs which you can run using that particular responsibility. And again, Oracle is provided a seeded request groups. You can use those request group, or you can create your own request group and you can associate them here. Okay, save this. Okay, now in order to start using this particular responsibility, you need to do two things. First, you need to associate this particular responsibility to your user ID. Okay, so I brought up my user ID. Put your cursor here, click on down arrow, or you can click on plus. Okay, save this. Now I have assigned this particular responsibility to my user ID. So now once I switch my responsibility, that is once I click on this, I should be able to see this new responsibility in the drop down. See, I'm able to see this new responsibility in the drop down. Okay, but before I start using that, I need to assign a profile option. Okay, as far as the second ledger is concerned, I had highlighted in yellow because we'll not be discussing now the second ledger related responsibilities or profile option. Okay, so this is the responsibility, and this is the GL data access set. That's the main important profile option which you need to assign. So GL data access set in 11A terms, it is nothing but a GL ledger or GL set of books. So Rohit, just for your understanding purpose, like we have got assignment of a profile option at different levels: site level, application level, responsibility level, server level, user level, and organization level. So in this case, you need to associate your ledger at a responsibility level. So that means now system understands that using this particular responsibility of general ledger, super user, Reliance, INR, the associated ledger is Reliance INR ledger. So that means all the transactions or journals which are entered using this particular responsibility will get into this particular ledger. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, Arvind, can we take 5 minutes break?
Sure. Yeah.
Arvind.
Okay. Now it's 9:57 in my laptop. So we'll join at 10:05 or 10:10. What do you say?
10:05 would be fine.
Yeah. Okay. We'll join back at 10:05. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, so we have assigned the profile option, and then now we can start using this responsibility. And I had already assigned that particular responsibility to my user ID. And in your case, if you want to start using this particular responsibility for your practice, then you need to go to the system administrator responsibility and then assign the this responsibility to your user ID. General Ledger Superuser Vision Operations. Sorry, General Ledger Superuser Reliance INR. When you go to the screen journals, enter. Here you can see Reliance INR ledger. So this itself says that all the transactions, whatever you are entering, will go to this particular ledger. Okay. So we'll start with the first one, manage journals. So manage journal is how do you want to enter a journal? So there are two ways of entering a journals directly in a GL. So as I said earlier, generally all the transactions should happen in the subledgers, whether it's an accounts payable or accounts receivable or a fixed assets or a inventory or purchasing other responsibility. But if there are any kind of an adjustment entries or an accrual entries which you want to pass directly in GL, that is possible through your GL front-end journal screen. So within the journal, you have two options. One is going to the journals enter screen, or you can enter the journals through WebADI. Okay. So first we'll start with the forms. So go to journals, enter, click on new journal. Okay. Or rather we'll start with a new batch. Journals, enter, click on new batch. So just for your information, the hierarchy of a journals is basically journal batch. Under journal batch, you can have multiple journal headers. Under journal headers, you can have multiple journal lines. So if you do not enter any batch name, if you directly go to journal header, the system will create its own batch name with a system generated name. So one batch can have multiple journal headers, and under multiple journal headers, you can have multiple journal lines. So we'll start with a simple journal. So I clicked on this new batch, which has brought up this particular form. Enter your batch name. It could be generally in a normal business scenarios, they'll enter a proper batch name so that it will be useful for for them when they are actually requerying these journals or running some reports. So I can say uh, Reliance month end adjustment. And what is the period in which you want to use in which you want to enter this particular journal? So click on drop down. So any idea why drop down is not showing any period? Any guess?
The period is not open.
Exactly. So as soon as the ledger is created, the first thing what you need to do is you need to open the period. So opening of the periods is also one of the setup somewhere I had mentioned. Yeah, opening of the periods. You need to go to General Ledger, open close, General Ledger super user, open close. It should be, I think it should be under setup. Yeah, setup, open close. Click on open close. Click on find. So here you can see the first open period is August 17. The reason being, if you remember when you are defining your ledger, you have set first open period as August 17, even though your calendar period is starting from April 17. So your calendar period could start even from say April 2001 or also one also. But it all depends on what is the first open period which you set in your ledger. If you say first open period is August 17, then you can start entering transaction only from that particular period. Okay. So I click on open. Are you sure you want to open this first period in your ledger? Say yes. Your concurrent request ID is so and so. So a request got triggered in the background. So click on OK and click on view, request, find, ensure that this particular program is completed, and then you can go back to the open close form and check what is the status of this period. So as you are opening the first open period, you got the particular form, whether you want to open the first open period or something like that. But for the next periods onwards, you need to just click on open next period. So August period is the first open period, and now once you click on open next period, it will automatically open September. And once the September is open, once you click on open next period, it will automatically open October and so on. If you click on say open target period, I mean generally you will not be using this functionality in any live environment. Say take an example, if you select open target period and select enter the target period as say December 2017, then so what system does is system is going to open all the periods from now to December 2017. So it is going to open August, September, October, November and December. You generally you will not have so many open periods in any live environment at any particular point in time. In general, you will have one open period in GL, or in some cases it could be more than one, maybe two, but not more than that. Okay, so open period program got completed. Now click on requery this. Hang on, why it's again still showing the same thing. It's completed. Go back to the screen. Okay, you can see August is open. Okay, and if you remember, when you are defining your ledger, you have set the future enterable periods as 1. So when I say future enterable period, always the next period will be future enterable period. Okay, so what is the significance of the future enterable period? In the periods which is in an open status, you will be able to enter the journals as well as the post the journals. But for the periods which are in future enterable period, you can enter the journals, but system will not allow the journals to be posted. Okay, you can only enter the journals, but system will not allow the journals to be posted until the period is open. So this is basically generally used for basically if you want to pass an accrual entries in advance, or for some other kind of an adjustment entries which you want to pass in advance even before that particular month approaches. So now I'm clicking on open next period, which will now open September period, and it will make October as the future enterable period. So open period program is the program which got triggered. It internally triggers some other program open period balances, which is updating something in the background. So in Oracle, it happens like whenever you try to make some changes in the front end forms, or whenever you try to do configuration, once you save, a request gets triggered, and that particular request internally triggers some other extra requests. So you need not get into the details of those things, because internally it is updating some backend tables. Only thing is you need to ensure that they are completed normal and there are no issues. Okay, now go back to the screen. Now you can see August is open, September is open, and October 17 is the future enterable period. Now again, if you click on open next period, then October will be in open status and November will be in the future enterable status. Okay, now we can start using these periods. So now you can see there both August and September are open. Okay, now go to journals, enter, click on new batch, Reliance adjustment entry. So here you can see automatically the period is defaulted to September 2017. Even though August is open and September is open, it defaulted to September 2017. So any reason why system has defaulted to September? Any guess? Sorry?
I mean, sys data. I mean, today's date is in September.
Exactly. So today's date is as per the server today. I mean, as I said, like the server is following EST time zone. So as per the server, today's date is 10th of September. So 10th of September falls in September period. So automatically it is defaulting to September. But as August period is still open, if you want, you can still click on the drop down and you can select the August period and you can enter the journals. But of course, in a live environment, generally you will have only one period or two periods being open. Okay. So this is the batch, and then click on journals button. Okay, so this is the first journal within that particular batch. You can say Reliance. What did we say? Yeah, adjustment journal, say 1. Okay, and in the ledger, when I click on drop down, it's it's already defaulted to Reliance INR ledger. So any guess as to how it got defaulted to Reliance INR ledger?
The profile option, right?
Exactly, the profile option, whatever is being assigned to our ledger. So for our to our responsibility, the responsibility whatever we are using is General Ledger Reliance INR, and for that particular responsibility, we have assigned a profile option of GL data access set. So for that particular profile option, we have assigned a value of Reliance INR ledger, and automatically that got defaulted, and it is mandatory field, and it is not allowing you to change. And Rohit, just for your information, wherever you can see yellow fields, these are mandatory fields. The fields which are white in color are optional fields. Okay, and the fields which are grayed out are, you cannot make any changes to those grayed out fields. Okay, so this is the ledger and category. Coming back to the categories, there are a lot of categories which are available in the system. In general, there is no major significance for the category except for the reporting purpose. So you can create your own categories. So there is some other screen, I'll show you that a bit later, wherein you can create your own category. It's only just a way of grouping your journals. So what kind of journal is it? It's an adjustment journal or accrual journal or whatever it is. So you can create those category, and you can assign those categories. And whenever you're creating a journals, you can associate the journal to that category. So at later point in time, you can build your own custom report, or you can run your some standard reports, wherein you can select the journal category as adjustment. Then system will show all the adjustment journals, or like all the journals which are created under the journal category. Okay, and next one is currency. Okay, what is the currency in which you want this journal to be created? So by default it is defaulted to INR, because that is our functional currency. If you want, you can change it to any other currency. So any journal which is created in your functional currency is a functional currency, or your setup books currency is you call functional journal. Any journal which is created in a currency other than the functional currency, that is in this example other than INR, is called a foreign currency journal. Only when you are entering a foreign currency journal, that's where your exchange rate type, or like period rate type, all these things comes into picture. So we start with a simple journal. It's a functional currency journal. Okay, so I'm not changing any currency. Currency is by default INR. And what is the general effective date, or GL date, or the journal date for this particular journal? It defaulted to 10th of September. As it is in September, it will allow you to select any date within September. So if, let us assume, if I go to say October, it will not allow you to change the period to some other say September 2018 or August 2018 or whatever it is. It will not allow you to make any changes to the date which falls outside September 2017. So you can select any date which falls within September 2017. So this is the range which we are given when you are defining your calendar. So you can even select say 21st September also, which falls in future, but as long as it falls in the current open period, system will allow you to enter the journal, and it will allow you to post the journal as long as it falls in the current period. It could be previous date, or it could be future date, or it could be today's date. Okay, line number 1. So I want to pass a simple entry wherein I want to debit expense account and credit a cash account. In general, these kind of entries comes from the subledger, but just for argument's sake, I want to pass a simple entry: debit my expense account and credit my say a cash account. So click on drop down. So it will take, it will, as I said earlier, like whenever you are passing any journal entry, you need to enter the entire code combination. So what is the company? 01. Select the 01. Department 000. Account, select some expense account. So it could be say maybe salary account. Intercompany, say 00. Click on OK. $15,000. So let us assume that this is my expenditure for a month for in my Reliance company 01. The salaries expense for the month of say September is say 15,000 rupees. Okay, so salary account is debited and your cash account should be credited. in GL, whatever the entries which are being passed are all manual entries or adjustment entries. These are entered by the user. So user can debit any account and credit any account. So it's a no brainer. So whatever you want you debit, whatever you want you can credit. So obviously you all the users will be an accountants. They know what to debit and what to credit. And in the description part, you can enter the description. So you can say that salary paid to Mr. X for the month of September. You can use the same description for both debit and credit. Okay. Save this journal.
Arvind, maybe a basic question. So basically, for this entry, are we saying that from salaries account, 15,000 INR will flow into cash account?
No. If you go to the basics of accounting, whatever I'd explained earlier, let me do there. Okay. Get into these rules. You are incurring some expenditure. So whenever you are incurring some expenditure, you are paying something to an employee towards salary. So you are incurring some expenditure. Debit all expenses and losses. So as per this particular rule, you are debiting the expense account. Salary is an expense account. Okay, you are debiting that. And when you are debiting, cash is going out. So credit what goes out. So as per this particular rule, you are crediting your cash account. So that's how you are passing this particular journal entry of debiting your expense account and crediting your cash account. So that's the journal entry. So you are paying something out of your pocket and you are incurring an expenditure towards a salary. Debit expenses and losses. So you are debiting your salary account. Credit what goes out. What is going out of your pocket? Cash is going out of your pocket. So whenever you are passing an entries, always think that you are that company. So in this example, think that you are Reliance Communications. So always pass entries thinking that you are that particular company. So out of your pocket, 15,000 is going, credit that, and you are incurring an expenditure, debit salary account. I know, like for a non-accountant, it's a bit difficult to understand accounting, but that's what it is.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
And again, in a normal, as I said, like in a normal client scenario, obviously, client will not ask you, the client will not ask the consultant what entry to be passed because they're all accountants. They know what to debit and what to credit. Okay, so once the journal entry is entered, save this. I think it's already saved. And as we are not enabled the approval functionality, we did not even check the checkbox of approval at the ledger level. As we have not enabled the approval functionality, the approve button itself is disabled. Okay, and you can directly post this particular journal. But if you have enabled the approval functionality, this will be disabled and this will be enabled. And then if it is enabled, you need to click on approve button. So once you click on approve button, automatically a journal notification goes to my manager, and there are certain setups within the system wherein my manager will get even an email notification saying that Arvind has passed a so and so journal entry for an amount of $15,000. So even there are if you do your configuration in a proper way, even from your email, you can open the journal. I mean, in an email there will be a link. Once you click on that link, it will directly take you to your Oracle screen. Once you enter your username password, it will allow you to review the journal, and once the journal is reviewed, the manager will be able to approve that. Once the manager approves, I get an automatic notification saying that my manager has approved the journal. And once the manager has approved the journal, I can come back to this particular screen and click on post button, or like post will be enabled. Then post will be enabled, so I can click on post button and post the journal. Unless and until a journal is posted, it is in a kind of a draft status. So as long as the journal is not posted, system will allow me to even delete this particular journal. But once the journal is posted, it will not allow me to delete the journal entry. So I can show you that now. So assume that this is approved or approval is not required. So if you go here, you can see approval is not required or not applicable because we have not enabled the approval. So click on post button. So even for posting, system has triggered a concurrent request in the background. So view, request, find, wait for this particular program to be completed. Okay, the program is completed normal. Okay, now you can requery this journal. better close the forms. Come back here, enter your batch name, click on find. So here you can see the status as posted. Click on review journal. See, everything is grayed out except this reverse button. Everything is grayed out. I cannot change anything. I cannot even delete this particular journal. Okay. So this is how you create a journal entries. So in a normal business scenarios, like there will be a lot of such journal entries which are entered by so many different users across the globe. And once you set up your system, automatically an approval notifications will go, approval email notification will go to all your the corresponding super users. And once the corresponding super users approves the journals, somebody can manually go in and click on this post button, or I'll also explain you something called automatic posting in a couple of minutes. So if you use the automatic posting functionality, automatically the journals will be posted as soon as they are approved. Okay. So any questions as of now?
So Arvind, regarding the approval, do we have any content or the training?
Yeah. So
Part?
somewhere I'll mention like what is the significance of approval functionality, or how approval functionality work, but I cannot get into AME rules. AME rules is basically like if you want to get into AME rules, it's purely kind of a customization to meet your business requirement. But if you want to use a standard approval functionality which is available within GL, I'll cover that. Okay.
Yeah, because maybe we can have one simple example, like to use the hierarchy approval for a journal creation. That would help us to know what all these configurations.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Okay. So this is how you do a manual entry of journals. So